Morning, guys. Welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Mr. Smith, kitchen. And today, I thought we'd make a cheesecake. I love cheesecake. It is like my favorite thing in the world. We've made a lot of them together. But, that doesn't make them any less challenging, any more challenging. They're actually, I think, kind of fun to do. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. If this is your first video, I hope you get something out of it. And so much more. Check out some of my other videos. If you're returning, thank you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. All that good stuff. Leave me a comment if you like. I love comments. Try to respond to all of them. So far, knock on wood, we've not had any bad comments. We actually have a pretty good neighborhood. But this cheesecake today, we're going to do a Nutter Butter cheesecake or a peanut butter sandwich cookie cheesecake. Nutter Butter is just it's a brand, it's a name of a type of cookie that Nabisco makes, and they are amazing. But you can do this with any peanut butter sandwich cookie, I'm pretty sure, and get the same result. So that being said, let's not dilly-dally, because I know my cheesecake videos can run a little long. And we'll head down here to the counter and we'll start making the crust for this bad boy. All right, I will give you all your ingredients in cups, tablespoons, teaspoons. Also give them to you in grams. That way it doesn't matter where you are, what measurement you use, with the exception of, I'm sure, some odd random measurement. You'll be able to make this. All right, we can all play along together. All right, hold on for me 1 second. Okay, down here at the counter. And as always, first thing we're going to need to make anything is a recipe. Right here I have this one. And like I said, if you saw yesterday's dinner video, I basically just looked up a bunch of Nutter Butter and peanut butter cheesecake recipes, and we kind of developed our own. So it's got a little bit of this recipe, a little bit of that recipe, that I thought would be kind of fun to try. But the first thing we need to do is make our crust. So I went ahead and preheated my oven to 350 degrees, which we're just going to leave that on even after we make the crust, because that's what we're going to also bake our cheesecake at. This is going to be a water bath cheesecake also, so you'll need a roasting pan of some sort to be able to put water in as we set our pan in there, or cake in there. That way it can cook nice and even with the steam and hopefully not crack. So first thing we're going to need is about 4 or 5 cups of crushed up, I use my food processor, Nutter Butters. And if you are, it's 454-ish grams. If you're not familiar with what a Nutter Butter is, or a peanut butter sandwich cookie, this happens to be what we're working with right here as far as Nutter Butters go. They are hands down an amazing cookie. Hold on for me 1 second. I need to go get some gloves. Okay, sorry about that. And you're like, gloves? I have to mix this together. Now, this part you could even also do in your food processor. That's add the butter. 2 or 454 grams, or 4 or 5-ish cups of granulated, pulsed up cookies. We're going to add 3/4 cup or 172 grams of melted butter. And you want to let it cool a little bit. You don't want to, you could put it in here piping hot. It's not going to really hurt a whole lot, but you don't want it to be so hot that, especially if you're doing it by hand, that's going to melt your hand. And then we're just going to, go through with our, this is why I put a gloved hand on. If you didn't have a glove, you could still just do it by hand, or with a fork or a spoon or a spatula, or but what you're looking to do is get your crumbs coated all the same, and you should be able to, it should be wet enough that you can squeeze it and it'll hold together just like that, but it shouldn't, if you squeeze it, it shouldn't pour butter out of it. I mean, you can use a little less butter. The crust recipe I found, this was it. And I mean, I personally think it's a little bit wet. I think I'd only gone with a half a cup instead of 3/4 cup or 115 grams. But we shall see, right? All right, so the next thing we need, now that we got that all crushed up, I'm using a 9-inch springform pan, all right? With cheesecakes, you need a springform pan. You can't use a regular cake pan. You'll never get it out. Well, you could, but you'd end up with like bits and pieces of your cheesecake probably broken off. And then instead of waiting till we went to put the mix in, the filling in, I went ahead and just lined it now with the aluminum foil. All I did was wrap it up over the edge. That's very important when you're water bathing. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So we're going to take our crust topping and we're going to put it in the pan. Man, it's really that easy of a crust topping. No sugar to add, no salt. It's just 2 ingredients. Get that in there. And we're going to get it in here nice and even. Then we'll take a cup or glass, as the case may be, and smash it down tight so that way we're good and packed in and good and even. But you want it even. That way you don't want to have an uneven crust. I guess is what it comes down to. But we'll get this packed in. Okay, we got this packed in. Nice and tight. Which is awesome. And so, what do we do now? Well, next thing we need to do is... Sorry, that was really jerky of me. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put this in the oven at that 350 degrees. And we're going to let this bake for about 10 minutes. So when I come back, we'll pull this out of the oven, let it start cooling, and we'll start making our filling. All right, I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so our timer's going off. Go ahead and get that turned off, but we don't want to turn our oven off. Get our crust out of the oven. And there is our crust. I'm going to set this on a cooling rack real quick. And we'll let that cool. And then that way, and while that's cooling, we can go ahead and make our filling. And what that'll do is it cools, it'll go from that shiny state to a solid state. The heating of it basically ensures all the butter is where it needs to be, and then sets the fat that's in the butter to hold the crust together. All right, so that being said, to make the filling, we're going to need 4 blocks or 32 ounces of cream cheese. Throw that in there. And to this, we're going to add some sour cream. A half a cup, 115 grams of full fat sour cream. Cheesecakes aren't healthy. You want full fat. That fat is what makes the cheesecake a cheesecake. We'll get that in there, just like such. And then we are going to whip this, mix it. I'm using a stand mixer. You could use a hand mixer. You could even use a wooden spoon for that matter. But you want to make sure that your cream cheese is completely smooth. Your cream cheese should be at room temperature. And like mine has been sitting out since midnight last night. It's about 8 hours. And if you're going to do that, it's fine. It won't hurt anything. But make sure you cover it with plastic wrap. That way it doesn't turn yellow. But we want to mix this about 2-3 minutes on it, and you don't want to go high. No higher if you're using a stand mixer or even a hand mixer. No higher than 4. By medium speed, medium low. That way we don't want to incorporate air. And I'm using my paddle attachment, as you may have saw. Okay, so we'll let that run for about 3 minutes, and it is silky smooth, no lumps, no clumps. That's why it's so important to leave. If you want a smooth cheesecake, you got to have that cream cheese, up to room temperature almost. You want it as room temperature as can possibly be, hands down. If you don't, it will end up having little lumps in it. Now, you may occasionally get these like little itty bitty little chips of cream cheese, and that's okay. There's nothing says that you can't have that in there. I mean, really, try your best not to, but you know, you just don't want any big clumps. All right, so anyhow, sorry I had to get the lid off of the peanut butter I did up. I get it in a mason jar, well, 8-ounce jar. So to this, all right, now, as I did not mention, about halfway through, stop and, you know, give everything a good scrape. You want to make sure everything's getting mixed up. But stopping to scrape a bazillion times will not hurt anything. I did it twice while I was doing this. But to our cream cheese filling, I digress, we are going to add 1 cup of peanut butter, which is 265 grams. Go ahead and get that in there right quick. Scrape off. And then we're also going to add some sugar. We're going to add 1 cup of sugar, which is 200 grams. Go ahead and get that put in there. So if your sugar is clumpy per se, because I know like here right at the moment it's really humid, easy to make your sugar clumpy. You can sift it, and then we'll add some salt, 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt as I get it unwrapped. Well, I'm not very prepared this morning. One gram, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of vanilla. That. And we'll get our paddle attachment back on there. Now, I probably, in all reality, have put those in one at a time and mixed them. But the filling ingredients the recipe that I found for the filling just said to put them all in. So we're just going to give it a shot. But having made these before, or at least cheesecakes, I should have known better. Wow, thunder for a thunderstorm in January. That is crazy. But we're going to mix this till it's completely incorporated. Like I said, we're not going to go any higher than medium speed. We do not want to incorporate air into this. Cheesecakes are thick by nature. They're dense. So I'm going to let this run for about another 3 minutes, and then we'll start with putting in the next ingredients. Okay, so we are down to the final couple steps. I've got a roasting pan, which you need to water bath with. You at least need a pan that your 9-inch springform pan will fit down into flat. But we're going to go ahead and get our mix. Grab a fresh spatula. And we're going to pour our mix into our springform pan on top of our crust. Just like such. We'll get it smoothed out here. And then the recipe for the filling said that we want to, give it a couple taps on the counter just to make sure it's set. We don't have any air pockets, anything like that. And it also said that it would come up pretty much to the edge. So, and it did. Get that nutter butter down in there. Now, I will tell you this. Most cracking when it comes to cheesecakes that you put chunks of stuff in is usually due to the chunks of stuff. It will set near the top. That's why I was pushing those down in. And it'll cause it to not want to steam come up, coat over it, and it'll cause a crack. All right, so the next thing we want to do is, I've seen recipes that have varied on this, but I have never once done it. They said you use boiling water. I just have super hot water in here. And we're just going to pour it in here. And you don't want to fill it all the way up to the top. You want about, about an inch up on the pan. This is why we put the foil on the pan, you know. So that way we don't get any water inside the spring form, because no matter how good your spring form is, it will eventually allow water to seep in. I don't know why that is, but it does. All right, now, if you are not strong enough to pick this up, and that's okay if you're not, really, put the pan and the cake on your oven rack and then pour your water in. But let me get this in the oven and we'll talk about how long to bake this for. All right, got that in the oven. Now we can have a good conversation. As soon as I straighten you up, that was weird. I dropped the whole unit, stand, camera, and all earlier while I was cleaning up. So it kind of offset some stuff. But anyhow, not that matters. We are going to bake this at 350. The recipe for the filling said 75 to 80 minutes, which is probably about right. Most cheesecakes you bake for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. So this would be about right. 75 minutes would be an hour and 15 minutes. So I set mine for 70 minutes, but I'm going to check it at an hour, okay, at 60 minutes. And what I'm looking for is I should be able to grab that rack and shake the rack a little bit, and that cheesecake shouldn't jiggle anywhere but like in the very middle. And it may have like a slightly wet look to it. I don't know, because I've never made a peanut butter cheesecake. So that is something we'll find out together. But I know for a fact that that cheesecake should be set everywhere but in the very center. And the center should be almost set. So when that is done, we will come back and we'll look at the next step. If you don't know, cheesecake, this is the most drawn out process, is getting this thing to cool down slow enough so it doesn't crack. We add the water to it to keep moisture in the oven so that way it doesn't crack. Cheesecakes crack very easy, and it's okay if they do. I mean, it's not like the end of the world. But hour, at least 75 to 80 minutes in the oven. Check it at an hour, and when I come back, we'll talk about what to do next. All right? Hold on for me 1 second. Okay, so the timer just went off. I know, weird view, isn't it? But I wanted to show you what I was looking for. So the timer went off. I shut off the oven. We went 75 minutes. I checked it at 60. It was still not bad, but a little jiggly, a little more jiggly than I wanted it. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to move you over here closer to the stove and down, so that way you can see what I got going on, because we're not going to take it out of the oven. Not yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the door. All right. And I don't know if you can see in there. Yeah. All right. But see how when I wiggle it, it just barely moves in the center and it's set on the sides. That's what we're looking for. So now with the oven off, I'm going to take a spoon. I'm going to set it in there, and I'm just going to leave this bad boy cracked just like that for an hour and a half. Or an hour. I'm sorry, not an hour and a half. Let me get you back over here where I can see you. And after that, just so I don't have to bore you with the little steps, so we're going to oven off, door cracked, hour and a half, or an hour. Then I'm going to take it out of there. I'll take it out of the pan. I'll take the foil off the springform pan. We'll put the cheesecake on a wire rack and let it set and cool to room temperature. Now that's going to take about an hour, hour and a half. Once it's down to room temperature, I'll put some saran wrap on the top of it, and then I'll stick the whole thing, cake, pan, and all, with the saran wrap on the top of it, or plastic wrap, into the fridge, where it's going to cool for about an additional 6 hours. Best practice is overnight, but it's still early in the morning, so this should be done by this evening. This is the part of cheesecakes that takes forever. Making the crust and the filling, that you can in reality have that done in about 20-25 minutes. Once you take that crust out of the oven, you make your filling. Pour your filling into it, put it in your water bath. If you're water bathing, there's alternative methods. If you don't water bath, just lower your temperature down so it bakes even, slower and lower, and then same process. So you'd want to put it at maybe like 300 degrees, 275, let it go for an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. But anyhow, once it cools in there for an hour, onto a rack, hour and a half, 2 hours till it's at room temperature, however quick that'll be, into the fridge for about another 6 to 8 hours till it's completely set and chilled. Best practice would be overnight, and then you do it the next day. But we're going to try to do it all today. So anyhow, I'm going to let that go, and when I come back, we should be ready to take it out of the pan or out of the springform pan and decorate it. All right, I'll see you here in a second. Okay, guys, so we're to the point where we let our cheesecake cool its hour in the oven with the door cracked, let it cool at room temperature, and then we had it in the fridge for 6 to 8 hours. Let me grab it real quick and I'll show you what we ended up with. I was quite happy with it, I'm not going to lie. But here we are so far. I know, wow, huh? I think it looks fabulous. Got a nice golden top, nothing cracked. But now we got to put something on it, right? I mean, that's kind of boring. So I got to thinking about it, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a peanut butter whipped topping that we're going to do. We're going to pipe some dollops on it, and then we're going to take some of the Nutter Butters that I have left that I crushed up, put those on top of it, maybe a couple whole ones, just to give it kind of a nice look to it. Although, I mean, in this case, it doesn't really matter how nice it looks just because it's just for us, right? Although it should look nice. I mean, we deserve nice things, right? Me and you, we deserve nice things. So, let's make our peanut butter whip topping real quick. Let's get down to the counter. It's only got a handful of ingredients in it. It shouldn't take long to make. Never made it before, but, judging by the ingredients, and I've made plenty of whip topping in my day so far, it shouldn't take long. So hold on for me 1 second. Okay, so, down here at the counter, stand mixer, as always, but this time we're going to use the whisk attachment, all right, because we're going to whip things. And the first thing we're going to put in our bowl, in our mixer, is some peanut butter. We're going to put 2 cups, 480 grams of peanut butter in there, which, I mean, just is a metric ton of peanut butter. But this is essentially just one giant peanut butter cheesecake with a Nutter Butter taste. And I've got some nutty bars that I haven't cut them up yet. We'll cut those up here in just a minute to put on the side of that cheesecake, and maybe put a couple down below. But we're going to put our 2 cups, 480 grams of peanut butter in there, creamy peanut butter. And then in this bowl here, I've got 1/2 cup of powdered sugar at 60 grams and 1/3 cup of regular granulated sugar at 66 grams. And then we're just going to take that and put that in there. Get a little bit of powdered sugar in there. And if your powdered sugar is clumpy, sift it. You could actually just put them both in the sifter and sift it through, and it would be just fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our whisk attachment. We're going to put this in here. We're going to start it out on low. Because if we don't, we will have powdered sugar all over the kitchen. And we're going to whip this until it's light and looks fluffy, okay? But you want to start out on low, that way you don't get powdered sugar everywhere. It still clouds, but not nearly like it should. And then we can get that bad boy up to about a medium. Okay, so we've got that looking creamy, light, and fluffy. Actually looks really good. And we'll get that kind of scraped out of there real quick. Doesn't have to be perfect, because it's just going to go right back in the pot. But we want to, just like when we're making anything else, give the sides a good scrape down. Make sure we don't have anything hidden anywhere. Nope, we are in good shape there. Get that peanut butter off of the spatula there. Put it back in the container where it belongs. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn this back on, and we're going to put in some heavy whipping cream. Okay? And I am going to take spatula real quick. I had this in the freezer a little bit because when making whipped topping, this is the one time you want your dairy to be as cold as possible. And I got a little bit of ice chunk there on the side. So, got that done. Now I'm just going to put this back on. In this case, it's 1 or stir. Yeah, I got to put it on 2. And we're just going to slowly add this heavy cream to it. Alright, we got our heavy cream in there. Now I'm going to mix this, well, I'm going to whip it until I've got soft peaks, borderline medium soft peaks, and then we got 2 ingredients left to add to it. Okay, I don't know if I told you, but that heavy cream was 2 cups, 470 grams. And then while that's running, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1.5 teaspoons, 8 grams or 6 grams of vanilla. And then we're going to whip this to a soft, stiff peak or a firm, medium peak. Okay, we're going to check our topping here. Just like any other whipped topping, I mean, this one's a little firmer, but it should have a nice gloss to it. And see how it's standing up, but not really standing up, but it's got a nice shine to it. You know, it looks stiff. That's about what we're looking for. Where we didn't add cream of tartar to this, we could over whip this. Now, what happens if you over whip it? Well, it starts to get firm and it'll get gritty. It'll start to lose that glossy shininess to it, and we don't want that. So what you would do if that happens is add some more heavy cream to it, like a teaspoon at a time. Put like 2 teaspoons in there, and then just keep adding it till you get back to this point. And that will correct itself. All right, so we got that done. Let me get this all moved out of the way, and we will get this icing piped on there. All right, so we got everything cleaned up. And now all we gotta do, I got my piping bag sitting in a cup right down here, and I'm gonna take my whipped topping, I'll put it on in there like such. Okay, we got our whipped topping in there. We'll go ahead and get our bag out there, push that down, and I don't have a scraper, but that's okay. We can make one up as we go along, right? We're professionals. Not really. All right, get that pushed down there to where I can see it coming out the tip. There we go. That. Move the cup. Bring our beautiful cheesecake out here where we can see it. And we'll go ahead and there we go. Then we're going to get some stars. Put around the top here. Still have yet to figure out how to make them all even, so to speak. Same size. Always get some that are a little smaller than others. I suppose it just comes with practice. This is probably the one thing I haven't really practiced a whole lot on, which is okay. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do with all this extra whipped topping. I suppose I could freeze it. You can freeze whipped topping and it'll stay good for a month or so, which is always nice. If I had a bigger platter for this cheesecake, I would do them down on the bottom there, but this bad boy just isn't quite big enough. That there. No, yeah, because I got a lot of peanut butter whipped topping left. That's all right. That's all right. There'll be plenty of things to do with it. Everybody likes peanut butter. Okay, so the next thing we got to do is we're going to grab, remember those Nutter Butters we had earlier? Well, I put a whole bunch of whole ones in there just in case we needed them. But I still have the broken up ones underneath. Now, I will say this. There's a couple of things I think I would do different the next time. Like, I think the crust line is a bit tall. I would probably back the recipe off by about 1/4 all the way around. Do like 3 cups of the Nutter Butters instead of 4. And I would probably go with a stick and 2 tablespoons or 10 tablespoons of butter the next time, instead of running with the full amount there. I would go 10 tablespoons instead of 12. Yeah, or maybe even just 8 tablespoons of butter. 1 stick of butter, half a cup. Just to lessen it a little. You know, and then that way it wouldn't be quite so tall. I will say I found interesting that excuse me, the cheesecake, when I pulled it out of the oven, now cheesecakes traditionally will rise and then fall. This one did not. It rose. Oh, actually, it didn't rise at all. It didn't go anywhere, but it didn't drop anywhere either. It stayed true to form and stayed tall. This is one thick, dense, tall cheesecake, and I love it. I thoroughly love it. Yeah, this is a peanut butter lover's dream come true. But I am going to add just a little bit of chocolate to it, but not so, let's say, because like I've got a couple friends that don't like chocolate. So this addition to it will enable us to be able to take the chocolate off of it instead of like drizzling it on. I've seen a couple people do that. But right there, I mean, we could just literally call that bad boy finished, and I think it looks fabulous. Yeah, but I want to do a little more to it. So let me get the camera moved so I can show you what I'm going to attempt to do next. All right, hold on for me 1 second. Okay, so to add just a little bit of difference to it, I went and got some what are these, nutty bars, and I cut them down to as best I could to match the cheesecake, the size of the cheesecake, but there might be some differences to it. And I just want to put these on the side, just like this. I mean, and fairly evenly spaced, and or we can push them together if it calls for it. These ones are a little bit tall. That's all right, you know. I'm not hating on it at all. Move that one over a little bit. And all I did for these was cut them, like I said, the size of the cheesecake itself, the filling part, the body of it. And then I sliced them in half down the center, which are really easy to do. There's actually 4 wafers, so you're just cutting between the middle wafers. All right, well, I'm gonna get these on here, and then we'll do the next, put some on the top, and we'll take a look. Okay, so I think we can call this one complete. I had an absolute blast with it. Stuck the Nutter Butters on the side, crushed Nutty Buddies everywhere. Yeah, this is going to be, I told my friend Tone, I said, this is almost like diabetes in every bite. So, definitely don't need a big piece of this, I don't think. But let's give her a cut into. I almost hate to cut into it, it's so pretty. We'll get a slice going on in there. Yeah, I am going to guess that this is probably one incredibly rich cheesecake, and so I don't completely screw up the sides cutting it. I'm gonna warm my knife up. Yeah, if you ever want your knife to go through cheesecake or anything like that, and you want it to be a nice clean cut, I know I don't do this all the time because I don't remember most of the time, but warm your knife up. Warm your knife up, dry it off, and then make your cuts, and it will go so much better. Let me move this. There we go. Yeah, we left a little bit of it behind, but that's all right. That's what I get for cutting a super small piece. Now this is served probably 10 to 12 in reality, but the way I just cut that, I'm like serving 16 people. It's just that small. But there we are, all the same. Put that back down there where it should be. Got it looking nice and beautiful. There is our cut piece. Right there. Up. There we go. Yep, looking gorgeous. So, now that we have oohed and awed about the way it looks, let's see how it tastes. Let me get you up here, get the camera moved, so that way we can see each other. I've been trying different camera angles lately, or different places to put my camera at any rate. That way I can, I mean, you just never know. I may find that sweet spot after almost a year of baking out of this kitchen that really works. But until then, of course, now, update. We actually, here in another probably a week or two, we're going to start demoing and getting ready to make this kitchen a new kitchen. So that'll be fun. And you'll get to see a little bit of it as we go. That was just Nutter Butters. That is one rich, off the hook peanut butter cheesecake with just, now that I got peanut butter all on my mustache. Oh, wow. No. That, my friends, is a good cheesecake. You can taste the Nutter Butters in them. You got that Nutter Butter icing. Nutter Butter icing. You got the peanut butter icing. You got the Nutter Butter crust. The Nutter Butters that are in it. It's just, if you like peanut butter, you're guaranteed to love this cheesecake. If you like peanut butter sandwich cookies, you're going to like this cheesecake. Heck yeah. Well worth it. Well worth it. This was a fun cheesecake to make. I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit much. I'm sure this video will be a little long. But if you stuck through to me till the end, go team. This really is just an amazing cheesecake. Give this one a try. Let me know if you do. Leave me a comment down below. Be like, hey, Brian, I tried it. It was great. Brian, it was hard to make, but it tasted great. Brian, it was hard to make. It was horrible. I mean, your feedback means more to me than anything else. So let me know. Next week, no idea what we're going to do for dinner. No idea. Dessert, on the other hand, we may do a wild berry pie. We're probably going to do the wild berry pie like I mentioned, the 3-berry pie. Only I want to try and do it in my cast iron. Just to see what happens. I've got a 9-inch cast iron pie pan, or biscuit pan, and I really want to try it. So we may try that in that. I haven't just quite decided if I want to be that brave yet or not. But either way, we're going to do the 3-berry pie. I think that sounds fun. So until then, anyhow, for dinner next Wednesday, I love you. Love you very much. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I never take you guys for granted. I always appreciate when you stop by to cook or bake with me. Tell somebody else you love them. You love them very much. It's going to make their day a whole lot better. It's going to make you feel a whole lot better. And if you take them some of this Nutter Butter cheesecake, that's going to be a conversation starter that'll get the conversation going for a long, long time. I'll see you next week. I love you. Talk to you later. Bye.